Portal is a simple yet incredibly entertaining game. It's a game that's also easy to control. You can move and look around, pick up stuff, and jump. But what if you took one of those out of the equation? What if we asked the question, can you beat Portal without jumping? A couple things before we start, I'm not allowing any cheating, exploits, or glitches, and that includes trying to get out of bounds. I'm also resetting my jump button to right shift, so there's no way I accidentally press it. Anyways, the beginning of this game is incredibly straightforward. You pretty much just pick up and move around stuff. But that's where one of my big fears of this run comes in. As of right now, we don't have a way to make portals ourselves. Instead, the map makes them for us, so I'm worried there's going to be a situation where I need to jump that's easily bypassable just by placing portals, but I won't be able to since I don't have the portal gun yet. Thankfully, it's not too far until we get the blue portal gun. We still don't have control over the orange portal, but it's a step in the right direction. A couple more test chambers go by, and there's yet to be a time where we even need to partially jump. Damn, it's almost like this game forgot about jump being a mechanic. During these first few test chambers, I get comfortable using the portals to access different parts of the map. Although it may seem simple, knowing these small tricks could help us out later on in the run. It's not until test chamber 7 that a possible jump comes up. There's a moving platform that looks like we need to jump off of it to reach the exit of the chamber, but surprisingly all we need to do is walk off to make the gap. Something tells me this is just a taste of what's to come later on. Almost like the calm before the storm. In test chamber 11, we finally get the second half of the portal gun. We now have access to all portals being placed, so hopefully from this point on, if we need to jump, we can find a way around it. Moving a bit more forward, in test chamber 14, it has our first jumping portion. While it doesn't look like we can go any further, all we need to do is place down a couple portals and we can get past it. In test chamber 15, there's a bit of a stressful part. Once you power up this moving platform, you need to use portals and jumping in order to traverse them. Doesn't seem too difficult, but it does cause my first death in the run. Apart from it being easier by it, it is still possible without jumping. A little bit later on, and we do come across a major issue. This is the first section of the game that requires jumping. I guess they did remember that jumping is a thing. All you have to do is move your companion cube up to this little wall, jump on it, and then jump on up. Except we can't do that, so we need to find a way around. All of the walls in this section are black, so we can't place a portal on them, and that's not going to help us. So we're kind of stuck. I tried to shimmy around a bit with the cube pulling it into me while crouching, and while I was just up against it, but nothing seemed to move me upwards. I tried and tried, but after about 10 minutes of testing, I can conclude you cannot beat Portal without jumping. But since we're already this far into the game and there's only a bit more, why not try to answer the question, what is the minimal amount of jumps to complete Portal? From now on, there will be a jump counter in the bottom right hand corner, keeping track. So we finally give in and we jump. 4 times. Yeah. This part requires not just 2, but 4 jumps to get past. Progressing a little bit further, and it looks like we're going to have to jump more in this section, and by my estimate, another 4 times. Lovely. After completing the puzzles and raising all 3 platforms, I already see a place where we can take off 1 jump. We can place a portal above the first one and drop down onto it, eliminating it. After finding that out, I did a bit more testing with momentum this time, and I found that I could maybe launch myself to the second or even the third platform to skip yet another jump. And lo and behold, it seemed possible. With a bit more finagling, I managed to make it to the second platform. So instead of this section taking 4 jumps, it now only takes 2. Also, for anyone wondering, you can just throw the companion cube up onto the final ledge, so you don't need to worry about it while doing the momentum with the portals. Now we're up to 6 jumps. Not bad considering it was almost 8. Regardless, we press on. The first half of Test Chamber 18 is much of the same that we've already been going through, so it's not too bad. That is except for one section where you have to place a portal and jump into it due to a gap, but thankfully if you put the portal low enough, you won't need to jump. The second half is where we run into more big issues. Basically, you have a short time to get to one side of the room, take portals to get launched to a higher part of that room, and then get back with the cube. It seems simple enough, but to be launched at the cube, you need to open a section of the wall that requires you to press a button. To press that button and get back to where you can be launched is 2 jumps. I don't really want to jump again so soon, so I started testing again. We have access to a platform down below for good momentum, so maybe we can use it to our advantage. I tried launching without the wall coming out and even launching from the side to try and go in that way, but nothing really seemed to work. It seems like no matter what I did, I always couldn't get anywhere close. I even tried jumping to the platforms around the room to try to cut down on the jumps, but no bones there. I ended up just accepting that there was going to be an extra 2 jumps to the counter. Except I was wrong. The opening to the wall that allows us to launch ourselves is also the exit out. So not only do we need to push the button and jump twice to launch ourselves, but we need to do it again in order to get out with the cube. So now we're up to 10 jumps. Definitely more than I thought we would have at this point, but there's only one more section to go, so let's get to it. In testing chamber 19, there's another section with a moving platform, but this one's much more difficult. Getting onto the platform, I found out I couldn't even get onto this one without jumping, so I had to shimmy my way around and hope I didn't fall. With the next bit, you need to push a button in time with the platform to open a door for enough time for you to get through. Then after making another risky portal walk fall, we're finally done with the testing chambers. We then almost died to this moving platform, but using the same trick again, we make it out fine. We now need to use all of our skills and tricks we've learned up to this point in order to keep progressing. Things go pretty smoothly, until they don't. We continue on, even going through past test chambers in order to keep working our way through the facility. We fall down an empty elevator shaft and make our way to the next problem area. We now have to do puzzles with these pistons. The first couple of pistons look like we need to jump on them, but we really don't. We can shimmy our way onto them. After we place a portal on top, we need to place another one on the bottom to go through it, and I think you can see the issue here. We can stand up through it, but we can't fully get through it without jumping. Once again, there's not exactly a way around this, so that's another jump. Now that I'm up, I just need to make it onto this piston and ride it over to the next platform, but we don't quite make it up. So, what do we do? I felt like with this section, there's definitely a way to get around it without jumping, just maybe not an obvious route. Before giving in and jumping, I decided to completely look around and see what I have to work with. And there just so happens to be a wall at the end where I can place a portal without even needing to make that jump. With the next room, the first thing that's glaringly obvious is that these pistons we can't just walk onto and we'll need to jump onto them. But here's hoping they're not required. With a couple of portals, we're able to make it to the next section without any issues. Remember how I said I was hoping I wasn't going to have to jump onto one of those pistons? Well, now I do. So that's yet another jump. With a bit more platforming, we continue on to the next problem area. And I wish I was lying, but this part took so long. What you need to do is put a portal above the piston and then put another one on the wall, then jump into it to get onto the piston and continue on. You already know how this goes, so it's time to start testing. Even with placing the portal at the lowest it can possibly be, I just barely miss it by walking off. It seems possible, but just slightly off. After quite a bit of testing, I found that this elbow section had a little bit of collision that you can walk on. Sadly, it's not all the way around, but it might be just enough for us to get into a portal. So I started testing with portals on that wall, and while I got close, it was the same song and dance. Just ever so slightly missing. While continuing to test, I found that depending on the speed and the angle at which I hit, this bit of pipe greatly impacted how far I would go. If I hit it just right, it almost pushed me off, while most times I would just slip off. After a lot of testing, I almost deemed it impossible until this happened. I got through it. I'm not exactly sure how, but I ended up falling anyways, but I knew it was possible now. And after many more deaths, I made it through. But even though I was super excited I'd finally did it, directly after is a mandatory jump with nowhere around. After progressing a bit further and using this guy's rockets to break glass for us to continue, we make it up to this vent. And wouldn't you know, it's also mandatory. So that's again 2 more jumps, one for the cube and one getting into the vent. After pushing through a few more rooms, we make it to the final boss. We have some tricky parts getting the bits that fall off of her, like this one that just wanted to be in the air, but there's no required jumps. So with that being done, the game's beaten. Sadly, it isn't possible to beat the game without jumping, but we only did it in 15 jumps, which is surprising on its own. Surely there is a few more jumps that you can shave off with getting out of bounds, but I wanted to try and complete this challenge without doing any of that stuff, and I think it went well. If you did like the video, be sure to like and subscribe, and a personal thank you goes out to everyone who enjoyed the last video. That video did way better than I thought it would, and it's all thanks to you guys.